My true focus is rural development with an emphasis on residential design, sustainable design.
I know no one's here to see me, so I'll get out of the way in a minute. About 2 to 3 years ago, I sent someone a note after other people and I were seeing what he was doing on Facebook. I said, okay, man, whenever you're in the country, one day you're going to come back home. Whenever you're back in the country, send me a note. About 4 or 5 months ago, for a family event, I noticed he was back in the country. So at that point, I said, if you got time, please swing by. I think it's important for you to present to students what you've been doing. Your path and how you started is very similar to many of them. But I think in watching what he's been doing for the last couple of years, I think he is one of the examples that we try to hold up at this university. And in this program, we believe you'll get a good foundation, understand your strengths, but you need to determine what your passion is, what your role is, what your future should be, and carve out your own path. I think when everyone looks at what our guest has been doing, they're very proud to say he got his degree in FAMU architecture. He's changing the world in his own way. On behalf of the school, I'd like to welcome an alum of the program, former Marching 100, freshman upstairs in studio, just like many of you, Mr. Brandon Rogers.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good afternoon. As you heard, I'm a product of this School of Architecture. It's a privilege to be back here in such a familiar place, to see so many familiar faces. Really, so much of who I am was developed right here in this building between the studio lab, design theory, art history, the wood shop. This is really where I've kind of discovered who I am and what I wanted to do with my life. Originally, I'm from Orlando, Florida. Never had really traveled anywhere outside of the States, maybe New York, and we went to Oregon on a FAMU trip. I graduated in 2004, so it's probably been about 14 years, which went by just like that. It's been a journey. What I'm doing now is green building work in Ghana, West Africa. Ghana is really the gateway to Africa. A lot of people say I've been there now 12 years. It's the first place on many places I want to go. I just recently also did a project in Senegal. I'm really trying to travel the areas and take some of the innovations of what we're doing. My true focus is rural development, with an initial emphasis on residential design, sustainable design. Sustainable design in the context of Ghana and Africa, really the foundation of it is on locally sourced materials and coming up with solutions that are practical. One thing I would say here, I always tried to be very cutting edge with my designs. I remember the first house I designed here was a geodesic dome with floating platforms for rooms. How are you gonna build it? That was never the question. This is just what I'm designing. What I found after college, I found that what I needed to design, I needed to be able to build. I needed real world solutions. And for me, architecture, it has to go beyond the drawing board. It has to go beyond the computer. We can come up with some wonderful renderings, some wonderful images, but truly with architecture, the minute you build it and you enter the space, you interact with it, you experience it, you see it, you touch it, you feel it, you smell it. All of those things shape your experience. I started literally with the house. If I were to describe my experience now, I would say I'm in the sticks and stones phases of design 1.1 with my architecture designs. The designs are very elementary, but they are things that I can build with no power tools, with low skill level labor, and it's stuff that I can train individuals on to do more. What I have today is a series of the projects I've done. We're going to focus on primarily 3 techniques that I'm working with right now. And all of the techniques are in response to a need or response to what's happening on the ground. The primary solution that we've introduced is Earthbag building, which is a form of rammed earth. The reason we've introduced that solution is traditionally the way they build in rural Africa. It's called atapami or wattle and dab. It's a form of building walls with just hand molding clay. The second technique, which in my opinion is the best way to build eco-friendly, is a compressed earth block. It's the best of both worlds. Conventionally, the way they are building is with a solid sandcrete block. It's a concrete block that's solid. So one, you have this massive element that now they have to over-engineer the homes to support that solid concrete block. It doesn't have the air hose like a regular cinder block does, so it's not cooling as fast. It's retaining that heat. So when 12 o'clock hits, it's hot. The block is very, very hot. Then that heat radiates into the building, creating hotter rooms. Then 5 or 6 o'clock at night, when the sun stops shining on it, that block loses all of its thermal capacity of heat, and it does nothing for keeping you warm in the evening. Now, the principles of clay at its core is that it takes longer to get hot, and then it takes longer to cool down. So in the daytime, you're benefiting from this massive thermal mass of clay. So that becomes your insulation. Then at night, it's slowly dissipating the heat it retains throughout the day and balancing out the temperature inside. The third way that we're introducing is called EcoShell domes. It's a form of monolithic domes. That one is a cast concrete shell, and that one is another fast, practical way to build strong, permanent structures that will really protect the individuals who will perform in the environment. I'm in West Africa. My prime base is in Ghana. I've got numerous projects that are going to be popping up between Ghana, Benin, Gambia, and Senegal. For me, I'm an explorer. My purpose is to be able to go anywhere, predominantly on the African continent, but I have the resources, the training capacity of the individuals I'm working with, and the equipment to go anywhere and build any of our designs or ideas or respond to the environment. I followed that traditional path. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, preferably get a scholarship so you're not a burden on your family, and then go and get a 9-to-5 and work and work and work forever. I did everything until it was kind of like, well, what's the next thing? Oh, buy a house, buy a car, all of this, that's what you want, but what is my purpose? That was a very important process of my life, to find my purpose, my passion. And that's something that I tell everybody. You really have to find what your purpose is. This is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your lives. So find your purpose, find your passion so you can fulfill that purpose. I moved to Ghana, West Africa in 2006, and I started interning at an architecture firm. It was with a Ghanaian architect by the name of Joe Ose-Ado, and recently had moved back from LA. He was doing some very forward-thinking, modern design. So I left my cubicle in Orlando, Florida, and went into this environment which was totally new to me, and just had an amazing experience. What I saw there was endless opportunity. There's so much development happening there, so much opportunity for creative people. It was just a wonderful experience that I couldn't leave. Again, because of my interest in the hands-on aspect, every day I was trying to get out into the field. This chronicles my building of what I've done from small to medium to large to where I'm at with my own personal work. I've done other projects, but these were all built with me, with my team, with my own hands, and it's truly my vision. Dim the lights. I want to take you through some of the projects, and I'm going to go in depth in the actual methodology that we used in building the project. This was the first structure that I built. This is an adobe block structure, and this was my cabin in the woods. After that, we introduced this building. This was the first Earthbag building, and you'll see before and after pictures in a moment, but this is a regular house for another individual who was from the States and moved to Ghana to relocate and retire. There's a lot of retirees who are moving to Ghana. This was a chalet up on the mountainside. Again, because my focus is rural development, I try to go into very beautiful sites. All of these sites are on the side of mountains with endless views, rivers, and all kinds of stuff. This is an EcoShell dome. This is concrete reinforced. This is the latest house that we built, another Earthbag building. This is actually a FAMU alumni who found me online and hired me to build him a home. He saw everything I was doing and loved it. This is his kitchen for his home. What is sustainable development? What is green design? What is eco-friendly? All these keywords that are trending lately, and now there's expensive products that are certified and green, but in our context, none of that is available. So for us, sustainable development centers around locally sourced materials. I wanted to help add to the Afro-modern emerging design type. A lot of the architecture as a whole has been influenced by the different worldly experiences through colonialism and other aspects. Their own architecture is hard to see unless you look at certain elements, traditional elements typically, and then you'll see other bits and pieces, but usually a lot of times it's being hidden. This is the first building, the Building of Africa series, where we utilize all of the local materials. Again, I'm in the rural countryside. All these stones are literally on the ground. The blocks that we used are made with this tech press mold. It's a low-tech mold that Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology developed as a way that individuals in the rural countryside could mold a better, stronger block. Essentially, it's just a metal press that you load here. The lever compresses down, and then when you flip the lever back, the block pops up. And it's a very strong, good quality block. You stabilize it with cement, and you're good to go. So for this wall type, we used all the local stones that were available, and we did a cast and mortar system. We reinforced the bottom here with iron rods, the footing, and then we have the stone stem wall. Above that, we have our block wall with our window details. We use traditional hardwood framing for roofs, roofing sheets or standing seam metal roofs or corrugated metal for roofing. The level of finishing, that is really up to the client and up to their capacity. You can finish these as modern or as simplistic as you like. So this is to look at the foundation. All these stones are there. Instead of buying them, you just have to harvest them. This technique is, in essence, what we're trying to do is empower the local community to show them ways that they can build better. And it doesn't factor in necessary money. This is a method that if you use it communally, they do a lot of communal building. So if you use these techniques communally, you will save money in that you have the labor pool amongst yourselves, and these resources are available. Everywhere you'll find cement, sand, the standard building materials. So this is the first structure going up. Again, though we're using the eco blocks, the stone, everything is structurally reinforced where it need be with columns, bond beams, footing beams, so that it's up to a modern standard. And this was just a small cabin in the woods, one of my tiny projects. It's probably only about 200 square feet, and it was really just a motorcycle garage, but it was the first structure that I built to test out the blocks, the stone, and in my own capacity. The Earthbag building is a modern approach to a traditional method. The reason why we promoted this technique was to empower individuals to get away from the Atapami method of building, which is handmade stacking of the clay. Because they can't compact it, when that clay dries, it shrinks, and the shrinkage adds cracks. And then again, it may not plaster it, so when it rains excessively, if it doesn't have a lot of water protection, over time it erodes. In the rural context, individuals really only sleep in the homes. Everything else happens in a compound. They have a compound living structure to where communally everybody's engaging themselves in the center of the house, which is actually an outside courtyard, and then they just take refuge in the house for sleeping and for other activities. So here's the Earthbag building technique, where they're using the same exact resources that they used before. The only thing I had to introduce the polypropylene sacks that we can get from the factories that mass produce them for different crops. So we go in and buy those by the thousand, and I can drop off 1 or 2 bundles, and then individuals can build a better, stronger performing home. The idea is typically what they have to do is the clay that they get for their homes is usually near site. So usually they go and carry all this clay over and then mold the walls with their hands, and they're done. With this technique, they can take the sacks to the source of the clay, fill the sacks directly, carry the sacks to the house, and lay them just like blocks, concurrently and overlapping, and then we ram them so that it becomes flexible formed rammed earth. Overall, the reason why this is so beneficial is because it's a low skill level do-it-yourself solution. This is not something that you hire me to build you a house. This is something that I come and teach you how to build your own house, and I empower you to build your own house. Performance, it's much cooler, it's much stronger, it's permanent, and it's secure. And again, it's usually, in most cases, you can get all the materials right on site because this is rural development where there's a vast abundance of local materials. This was the after. After we rendered all the walls and everything, you can't even tell. I tried to make an eco-friendly house that's just normal, that's rectilinear, that people can absorb and see that as a regular, normal, natural house. And so this is our version of that. The walls were plastered with a cement stabilized sand so that we have a better layer of protection. This was one of the original renderings for the design when we were going through the design phase to show the client what more or less the house was going to look like. And again, for my goal is to be able to design, computerize, and then build exactly what we've designed. Very simple floor plan. It's more or less just a one-bedroom house with an additional workshop. And this was my first full-size house. We didn't have any power tools, just saws, hand planes, hand drills. It was a very grueling process because I learned everything in this wood shop. If I had the wood shop, I'd have built the house in no time. I got out there and they're like, it's time to start sawing. And you're sawing some of the hardest wood you can imagine. The wood we use is redwood mahogany. Here we are setting out the building, doing the excavation. This site was a very sandy site along the Volta River. Next to the site, there was a mountain. We literally went over there and cracked all of this stone for the foundation from that mountain and then transported it over. Again, a lot of these techniques, what I'm trying to do as well is the money that you're spending, I want it to go to the individuals in the communities, to the workers, so that the cost of the house is not going to a store for your products, but it's actually going into the community. So we try to harvest resources and use local talent. And so we literally built a rumble stone foundation that's stabilized with sand, cement, mortar, and it's a castle-like foundation. Everything we're doing is hand mixing concrete. Everything there, you can get the raw resources, pure cement, sand, stone. Even in many cases, the stone, we crack the stone. This is us casting the floor. In this case, because we were on the beach side, this was one of the rare cases where we were not able to get the soil from the site, and so we had to truck in the clay. This is an ordinary clay. The thing I like about it is the scientific name is like ultra soil, because this is the ultimate soil. It's the perfect mixture of clay, sand, and then when you stabilize it with cement, it's perfect. But it does very well. You can plaster it. You don't have erosion issues. But here we are now, beginning with the walls. This is the process. Fill bags, sew them closed, lay them, ram them, and continue.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you ram the bags and like you put like a couple layers, you ram them?
We ram each individual layer.
Okay.
So you lay a layer, you ram it. What's recommended is to put barbed wire in between. Typically, that's when you're going round. When you're going round, you don't want the bags slipping anytime when they're closing them up for the dome. They use the barbed wire just to stop for the slippage while you're ramming it. But with vertical walls, you don't need it as much. So you just literally ram it on top, ram it on the side, and continue laying the bag. And you go all the way up to the lintel level. Then when you get to the lintel level, we cast the concrete bond beam that ties everything together.
Do you have any rebars vertically?
Vertically, only where with this one we had a large span at the garage door, but with just the average corner, you don't. Yep.
So when you're saying ram, does it mean just to compress it,
Exactly.
or does it mean to like you're reinforcing it with something?
No, it's just compressing it. Essentially, all of these techniques are really about compressing. The compressed earth block is taking a whole lot of clay and compressing it down to a very tight block and then stabilizing it with cement. And this is the same thing that is happening, but inside the bag. Really what this is rammed earth. This is a rammed earth house, but instead of building the expensive formwork that a rammed earth house takes, we use the polypropylene bags, and so that gives us the low skill level of where you need a very good carpenter to go in and set all of this up, fill it, and then you have all that wood that you wouldn't use from a rammed earth house unless you were doing multiple houses. This cuts all of that out. This is called flexible formed rammed earth. And here's the barbed wire that I mentioned going up.
Brandon, what are
Yep.
you using for spanning over your opening?
Yeah, so when we span over the openings, we are casting a concrete reinforced beam with iron rods, and that goes over doorways, large garage doors. I have a core team of 5 to 7 people who've been working with me. Really what I try to do is most of my individual workers are youths between the ages of like 20 and 30 who recently graduated from maybe high school. And then we have our master carpenter, our master mason, who, in essence, really what I'm doing is using the masters to train the youth. And so this is the house going up. When you get to a certain level, you can insert your door frames, window frames, and you continue laying. So here are the window frames going in. For most of the houses, they all have bars on the window. But you have to factor that in. All of the houses have some type of security proofing. This is us here doing the form work for the concrete bond beam. And so this is pretty much at the lintel height of about 7 feet of the door frames, window frames. We go around the entire house with the structurally reinforced concrete beam, and that ties everything together. This is the iron work for the bond beam. We do periodically put stakes in, but this one I specifically designed it in a way so that we could reduce as much vertical iron rod as needed, and that's basically in the corners. You really only need it if there's going to be certain spans that are going to happen. And so basically on a lot of the walls, you can't see it here, but there's cross buttressing that's happening from the interior walls, and so that removes the need to have the vertical full from footing to bond beam and then to gable concrete.
The windows,
Yeah.
why the 600 windows? You had few bigger windows, but more of the small windows. Why did you choose that?
Yeah, so what these small windows are, what they use there is a louvered window that you can open, and that gives you full maximum airflow. Typically those louvers are going horizontal, and that's a very, very common window detail that they use there. What I've done here is I've used that same window, but we turned it so that the louver slots are vertical. And then here, this is the bathroom. These windows are really just for light and airflow. I have them high so that you can't see what anybody's doing in the bathroom. Then these big openings here, I actually put a fixed glass sliding window in because it's the bedroom and I wanted to give them a picturesque view. This is the bond beam. We're now removing the wood from the bond beam. You see some of the iron rod that I mentioned that we stick, that goes in and up so that the next bags again will sit right on top very well. And so this is the concrete bond beam. This particular one is probably about 8 inches thick, and it goes all the way around the house. So we have our rumblestone foundation, our walls from foundation to bond beam, and then we're going to continue the walls all the way up to the gable levels. And here is where, because of the garage and the spans, we did have columns on the corners here. The house begins to take shape. So now we come in with the hard timber wood framing for the roof. And here's the roofing. You can't really see it here, but we used a lightweight roofing sheet that is actually almost like a tar paper stamped corrugated sheet. It really only has about a 10-year lifespan. But it does reduce the heat that enters the house significantly. They don't do any type of ceiling insulation, roofing insulation, and it's really, to a large degree, all about cost. So the houses cost what they cost because they're cutting, quote unquote, a lot of corners or leaving a lot of things out. That now we've begun rendering the building with the cement and sand stabilized plaster. This is the ordinary cement sand plaster that they use to plaster everything. It sticks to the bags very well. In addition to that, we sometimes do factor in that chicken wire mesh to help hold the plaster to the walls very well, and it works great. So we do a first plaster, that's the rough plaster, and then we come back and we bring it smooth. After you finish the plaster, you can never tell that it was a bag house. This was after we rendered the house. For this particular house, we actually used the color wash so that we didn't really paint the house, we more or less stained the house. And so that over time it would weather better. One of the big problems with the paint there is the chipping and the peeling. This one wouldn't do that. It would fade gradually, but it would be a very much a watercolor type wash, and it worked out very well. Then we used the stone to just dress the wall there just for a detail. At the same site, we did a round building that's kind of more inspired by the traditional sense of round building. We used the typical thatch roof, clay pot on top. This is a 2-story building, so there's actually a second level loft with a staircase that goes up, a step ladder that takes you to the top sleeping loft. So here it is in the bag form. The Earthbags works very well for round. In its best element, it's round, because at the same time, when you have those round walls, that curve adds strengths to the walls. This one, we decided to plaster it with the clay. I wanted to show that this could be plastered with clay, it could be plastered with cement. It all depends on what you want, what you can afford. So we used the very same clay that we filled the bags with. We stabilized it with 10% cement, and then we plastered it. This is the first coat. And then we did the second smooth coat and then color stained it. This is the interior. You can see the wood second floor decking. This one is about 16-foot round diameter. Naturally, what happened was, after I was building these homes, I was sharing them online. I built my website, I did my marketing, and I slowly but surely raised the Google rating. So when anybody's searching anything to do with Ghana, eco building, architecture, I'm the first one to pop up. And naturally, that's how literally I found all my clients. It's all been through the internet. They find one house, they like it, and then they want me to do another one. Essentially, the first houses, I was looking for partners who wanted to collaborate with us to build these more or less living showpieces that people could come and see and get the idea. My ultimate goal is to be able to do community development and to be able to design communities incorporating these techniques. And these houses are examples of what could be done. This is another home that we built. One of the first things I always tell clients who are looking to move to Ghana in the rural areas, instead of building your big dream house, start with something very, very small, something practical so that you have a safe, secure environment to live in. You never know what may happen with your finances or anything else, and you set out this big foundation and then you never finish. This is the first chalet or summer hut for her. This one is 18 feet round. We have a couple additional rooms off to the side, and then we have a larger sleeping loft at the top. Another thing that I always recommend is the roof. Spend your money on the roof. You don't want to redo your roof in 10 years, 15 years. So this is pretty much the best roof that they have on the market. It's the standing seam roof. It gives them 20, 25 years. And that's really where you want to spend your money. You don't want to cut corners on your roof. All the problems related to eco building tend to be water-related problems. This is the floor plan for that house, the layout. There we have a big open porch, outdoor kitchen, then just a main space, another single room and bath, and then the spiral staircase takes you upstairs to just a large open sleeping loft with a big panoramic window.
Why the outdoor kitchen?
A lot of stuff happens outdoor in the beginning context, and really with all of my homes, what I'm trying to do is get people from out of the houses. I'm trying to bridge that gap from outside to inside, and this was a very good way. This is all a covered porch, so it was a very good way to do it. They have a small little kitchenette on the inside, but they really do any type of barbecuing or large cooking on the outside here. So this was our site. Beautiful, beautiful site on the side of the mountain. Here we are with our foundation, rumble stone, reinforced. And then the bags begin. The bags work very, very well for for their context and for certain applications. This site was beautiful because we got all the stone from the site, we got all the clay from the site, and that all translates to cost savings. Now, what was a challenge with this site is, as you see, we're on the side of a mountain. This is our road. A lot of the larger delivery trucks and stuff have a hard time getting up there. The tipper trucks that are bringing our sand and other materials, they can only get so far. And so from a certain point, you have to carry everything uphill. And so that aspect is very labor intensive. There's a lot of things that people don't take into consideration when they pick, oh, I want to live up there on the side of the mountain. Well, how are you going to build a house up there? This is after our bond beam. The same technique, concrete reinforced bond beam going all the way around. A couple columns here to support this large opening doorway here. And then the bags continue.
What is the normal temperature?
It's very much like Florida, just without the winter. We're definitely in the 90s, 100s, but it's very, very, very much like, more central Florida, South Florida. We have rainy seasons and dry seasons, so we don't have a winter. Our winter is our dry season. This is with the bags continuing to go up. We have that second floor wood decking at about this level. Because this house was built a little bit longer over a period of time, we did some of the plastering at different levels. That's me up top. So here we are doing a bit more plastering. You can see that chicken wire that I referenced earlier that we put into the plaster to give the final finish, a reinforced finish. This one, again, we started with a mud-based plaster, and then the final screeding is a cement sand-based screeding. With these homes, they end up with, as you can see here, you end up with between anywhere from 16 inches to 18 inches thick walls. They're very strong, very sturdy, and very cool. This is our bathroom here. This is our additional room. Sleeping loft is up, then the main space is down here. That's after the roofing came on. We've got rainwater catchment, so that we can catch all this water. Then back here, you can kind of see it. We've got a big reservoir here, so all that rainwater is caught and stored there. The idea is to really make these things sustainable to where they can live and survive on their own. So we try to use some of these techniques and everything. This one took a lot of steps. A lot of steps. Those are fun to make. We have a nice retaining wall here. And this is the covered porch. The outdoor kitchen is here. The large panoramic window at the top. Again, what I'm trying to do is through their materials, through the available resources, I'm trying to build on what could have or what should be or what is the African modern design style. I'm trying to use our traditional techniques of building in modern ways, and that's why you see a lot of this stone work. You can see it here, you'll see it a little bit better later. With this security bars here, I try to do them a bit more artistic, so it kind of has a sunrise pattern to where everything is fanning out from the middle, just so if you are looking through bars, it's a bit more artistic. Here's the louvered windows that I mentioned. And this one too, we got to do some interior work, laying some tile and some other more or less small scale interior design. I have a large traditional wooden post. I wanted to blend the feel of nature, rural, with the traditional wooden posts that they use. So we use these wooden posts for the center of the house and also to support the veranda. We've got carved wood doors, spiral staircase that takes you to the top. This is the other room. Here you can see that security bar pattern a little bit better. This is plastic TNG ceilings. It's a very common material there. I wanted to use that one just to show that we're using regular common materials in some cases. And this was the bathroom.
How do you run power? You just set the bags and then pull wires and they just kind of sit on the bags or you?
Well, we set all the bags, and then we use conduit pipes, and we set the conduit pipes into the bag, so sometimes we'll cut away a little bit, recess all the conduit pipes, all the plumbing pipes, and then refinish the plastering, and everything is just inbuilt flush, like normal. And you can pull it through if you have any repairs. This one too, the client had the budget to do a nice modern bathroom, so I was able to do something with a nice modern bathroom. Yeah.
Did you say a few slides back, the ceiling looked like it was wood? Did you say it was plastic?
Yeah, that one was plastic. It's supposed to be wood, but it's a plastic version of it. They like it there in some regards just because of how durable it is, and it's cheaper. You don't have to treat the wood, you don't have to stain the wood. And so in that case, we used it there. Later, you'll see the wooden one that I've used. This is the shower here.
And did
Yeah.
you need any kind of waterproofing outside, like you burned into the earth?
Yeah, so that was the biggest issue with this home. So in all the places where it's burned, we did some serious with plastic and impermeable membranes that we put there. We didn't do a French drain, which would have been good, but it was so clay that we didn't do it there. So it's really just a lot of plastic. And then we added some waterproofing additives into that cement to try to really help. But personally, I try to stay away from going underground because, again, that water, that moisture, that wicking through, that's the #1 cause of any problems you're ever going to have. So this is the upstairs. So you have a nice sleeping loft. In the end, we ended up sanding the whole floor down and polishing it very nice. And that's the large panoramic window up there. In most cases, water, utilities, everything, you have to create it. A lot of these houses, this one we did a typical septic system, which is not a solution, it's just a holding chamber. Now I have a solution that you'll see on the next house. And then this one, luckily they were close enough to some power, so they were able to tap into the local power lines. The next house, they were a mile away from the closest pole, so that house is fully solar powered. This is our most recent house that we just built last year. The FAMU alumni who's currently living in it, retired in it. This is my modern Earthbag home. This is the same Earthbag technique, but we had the resources in the budget to use the higher quality materials. We've got the wooden T&G up there. Again, we have the quality standing seam roof. And then I still used my louvered windows for airflow, and you'll see some other sliding glass doors. In this house, we got to really do everything. It was up on the side of the mountain, so we had to hire a bulldozer and clear a road. We called in a borehole company, and they drilled our water well. We had to do our waste management, which was a biodigester. It's a great little system that just digests all of the waste, and it's one of the solutions that they're really implementing and trying to promote. That was the initial design concept for the home. The home, we built it in phases. Technically, this is half of the house. You can see the overall shape here. I wanted to do large water catchment. So all of this, not only is this roof optimally angled for solar collection, we've got a large water catchment so that I minimize all the gutters along the back of the house so that we can catch all that water and store. We have a big front veranda on the home, so the whole house kind of overflows onto this porch. And again, we did the rumblestone foundation, earth bags, lintel beam, and this is with this smooth rendered plastering. On the inside, we really got to do some things here. So we have some really nice tile finishings. We did crown molding. In regards to the quality or the details, that's all reflective of your budget, of what you can afford. And that's what I'm trying to show people is that that is separate from the technology of the home. This is what I'm most proud of. This is our kitchen. This was timber beams that we went and got machined and had a carpenter mold all of our kitchen and really got to make the wife a real nice space. This one is solar powered. So we have a 8,000 watt system powering the home. It's got about 12 batteries, 20 solar panels. These are made in Ghana solar panels. So that's another big thing that's happened is there's a couple companies now that are manufacturing solar panels in country, and now they're really promoting it because they have so much sun. I was very, very happy to be able to use the made in Ghana panels. That's drilling for the water. This is the biofiltration system I mentioned. Essentially what this is, it uses activated bacteria to biodigest all of the waste. It filters in here, and then after a period of time, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, a long period of time, there will be an organic, more or less fertilizer waste that will be in here. And so it's very low maintenance. The other system is really just a holding chamber until you get a big truck that comes and pulls it out and probably goes puts it in a lake or wherever. So this is really the solution that the country is promoting. Sanitation is a big issue. A lot of houses don't really have sanitation factored in. So now these systems, they're going around and implementing these systems into the compound homes. This one system can handle between, on average, 10 or 12 people on a daily use. You know, so depending on how many people are in the home is how many systems they set up. And so it filters here, and then there's a soak away for the water, and the organic waste decomposes here.
Quick question. So
Yeah.
you're saying that the government of Ghana is helping promote this?
Yes.
So
Yes,
it
definitely.
means that more homes are actually aware of this matter.
Yeah, right now what they're doing with World Bank funding and a couple other organizations, but what they're doing is they're subsidizing the cost. And so through my NGO, we work with another company who is Calm Sands, and the government pays for half of the system, and the homeowners pay for the other half, and they come right out, we install it, and it works right in their home. So they're doing this all throughout the city specifically because in the city, a lot of these homes don't have bathrooms or good quality septic systems.
So after they come and remove the waste there to be used as fertilizers?
Yes. Typically what's happening is that activated bacteria is literally eating the waste.
Okay.
So now what is left is the waste from those organisms, which is really a micro fertilizer. Not that they're going to use the fertilizer, but you know, that's just what it produces. Now this was another system that we put in place. This is a biogas system. This system is meant to give us actually cooking gas. We set this system up and we have it actually piped right into the house so that when the system is up and running, they will be able to get cooking gas in the house with natural gas. It's fed through here, this is a very scientific system. You have to manage it with the amount of waste input that's going in, but it will produce gas. And it's another wonderful system that a lot of people are trying to start use. It's really more of a community development solution because you need so much waste going into it to produce. So a lot of schools, a lot of neighborhoods are looking towards using these systems, and then they use the gas to power street lights or other cooking means. This one we got to actually use a concrete mixer as compared to hand mixing all of the concrete work, which was a blessing. This was another little small container project that I built at that site. Everywhere we go, no matter the size, I always say, let's build something small first so that we can see all the parameters that we're going to encounter with at that site. What does it take to get materials there? What does it take to get labor? Now we have a place to store the materials for the larger house. There's a lot of aspects that the homeowners are not thinking about. So we came in and welded up this container project here. And this is another way of doing a stone foundation. So we showed that one here, and then I've got a galvanized sheet metal container that we made.
Quick question
Yeah.
before you move on.
Yeah.
If you look at this, if you look at Africa generally,
Yeah.
architects would want to look at the money that
Mhm.
you want to be paid, and you would agree with me that whatever you're being paid on each of this project can be as much as what a normal an architect would take in the city and stuff like that. In terms of funding, are you working with another NGO or because are you getting funding from other ways, or you're just depending solely on the funding provided by your clients?
I do have sponsorship from an NGO where I do get funding, and so you have to be very, very creative in doing that.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So typically, you come up with designs and your clients find you and you have sort of a batch of designs, or do they have input on those depending on the site?
Okay, so everything is custom designed for the client. They get exactly what they want. This is my designs, but this is not my style, so to say. So this is all what they wanted. I do have some solutions and I do have some creative elements that usually inspire them, and then we start the process. And I've gone through about 5. Now I'm transitioning into where I'm gonna actually just offer the homes, build them and sell them, because I wanna transition from being the designer, the contractor, into being the developer so that it'll be more profitable. And ultimately, that's what I'm gonna do with my architecture, is transition it into being a result of services into a product. This is the first product that we're developing. It's the Monolithic EcoShell Dome. It's a tried, tested dome that's being developed by a company in Italy, Texas. And it's structurally reinforced concrete work. They come in a number of sizes and they serve multiple purposes. This is one of the reasons why we're doing it. Thatch roofs notoriously have an issue with fire, especially on the village level in the dry season. The smallest little ember of fire can go up, catch your building on fire, and destroy everything. This happened to our little beautiful mud hut. Some farmer was burning about half a mile away and a little ember caught it, and there it was, gone. So this is the conceptual rendering for one of the domes. This is a dome studio. It's 20 feet round. This model I'm trying to promote for two different reasons. One, for the hospitality industry. This would be a great little room to rent out at a beach resort or a mountain retreat. And at the same time, the size is comparable to the module for village rural development. This is one of the floor plans for one of the more modern deluxe versions for the guest house. You can get a kind of idea of the size and scale. This one is 20 feet round with a 10-foot ceiling height.
That's a pretty casted situation.
We have a specialized airform. So essentially it's like paper mache. We do the foundation, we blow up a big balloon, and then we wrap it in iron rod and we plaster it with cement. And the idea is to be able to do communal compounds. This would be great for guest houses, a shared communal space, and each person has their own little room. And real fast, you can see here, this is the process of building it. The first thing is a concrete reinforced foundation. Then after the foundation is complete, you attach the specialized airform and you blow it up. And that gives you the shape. This airform comes in a number of sizes. We have it in 10 foot, 20 foot, and 30 foot. The 30-foot one has the height of 20 feet. The 10-foot has a height of 10 feet. So this is about the equivalent of like a 2-car garage. So it's a perfect little space. Go ahead.
So what about rain collection and erosion with this idea? 'Cause isn't it?
And this one, we definitely lose rain collection, but we benefit in a number of other places.
Right.
Some people have tried to mold in some type of concrete gutter, but you really still don't get a lot of collection. There's really protection, and this one you don't ever have to worry about your roof blowing off, your roof. And so again, structurally reinforce it with iron rods. You create a cage work, and then you plaster it with the ordinary cement that is commonly available.
Can you reuse the balloons?
Yes, you can. That's the beauty of this technique. Once you're finished, you deflate the balloon and you move it to the next site and you start all over again. And so that's the idea, is I wanted a technique that I can train a group of individuals to do, and then they can go over and over and over and build as many as they like once they have just this airform. Then you can compartmentalize the inside however you like. This again is the solid sandcrete block that I mentioned that everybody wants to use. This individual client, this that one I actually built for my foreman, and he wanted to use the blocks. He already had some, so it's his house. I let him do what he wanted. But this is that concrete block that I mentioned that everybody uses. You can see some more stacked over here. And the reason why they like it is because typically when they're building their houses there, they're building them with cash. There's not mortgages, there's not a big banking infrastructure for them. So essentially when they get a little bit of money, they make their blocks and they sit their blocks on their site. And those blocks can sit there for years and never have a problem. Then when they get a little bit more money, they do their foundation. And that's why you see a lot of houses that are incomplete, because that is how they finance their houses in stages, instead of putting the money in the bank and waiting until they have all the funds. Then you do the final rendering and you get a nice, smooth structure.
How thick is the wall?
4 inches.
But people would rather live in the yellow house than the brown house.
Well, it depends. And that's why I want the options. You can get what you want, but all of them, they're blown away once they realize it's an Earthbag house. Typically what I do inside the houses, I'll leave somewhere exposed, because a lot of people won't even believe me until I come in and I say, well, look, and you can see that this was a bag house. That's the key. The design is reflective of you and your personality. My goal is to give you the design that you want, but the means in which we build it, I want it to be a better means that's going to perform for you, and that's why I have these different techniques. Again, I'm not trying to say everybody should move into a dome house, but it has its capacity and it has its areas where it's very good, and it should be utilized for that. The other idea for these domes is to interconnect them and to have more than one. This was the smaller dome. This is the 10-foot dome. Again, its purpose is more for smaller functions. It could be bathrooms or storage rooms, guard houses, toll booths. It has a whole nother function. Different airforms, same technology, reinforced iron rod cage work, then plastered. This one is very fast. The whole process, the foundation will take you 1 or 2 days. It needs to dry. Then the balloon comes, and within 2-3 days, you have the whole shell. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about time and cost, but I'm
Yep.
assuming it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's much more affordable. You do need the specialized equipment, which you have to factor that in, but then after that, it's much cheaper. No roofing wood, no roofing sheets, no soffit, no fascia boards, no gutters. There's so many aspects, so in that regard, it is more affordable.
In public parks, say bus stops and all of that, where
again?
public parks where there are no toilets, public toilets and all of that, what are you seeing any method of, partnering with the Ghanaian government
Yeah.
and saying that you could just implement it?
Yeah, so basically the reason why I had this one is we were promoting this dome with the other biofiltration system, and that would be an installation that people could do just like that at public parks and in different places to solve that problem. The benefit of this one, though, is that as fast as it's getting hot, it's cooling off from the wind blowing on it on all angles. Then again, we do try to factor in a pozzolana concrete, which is a little bit better than the typical Portland cement. But I would even be looking into using an insulated concrete in the future to try to help with that as well. So this is the next one we're building. This is the rendering for it. They're actually co-joined. So that's the idea, is the dome itself is one module. What I would recommend is you build one dome, and then maybe you have the tiny dome for your bathroom on that dome, or you have a cluster of domes. They have numerous purposes, so it depends on what are your needs, does this fit your needs. But we just started this one, and we've got the foundation down, and when I go back in December, we're going to finish this one. This one is right in the town next to the ocean, so it'll be very popular, and a lot of people will be able to see it, and so I'm expecting a lot of interest in these domes. We do a number of workshops with the university students there. There's a wonderful new university that just opened up a couple years ago called Ashesi University. It was an ex-Microsoft head who moved back home and set up this state-of-the-art university. And they're really doing some great things out there. They have an engineering school that just got up and running, and they're doing some great things with robotics and other stuff like that. So this was from one of our workshops with them. And the last thing I'll share with you is another project that we did. This was a makerspace project. What it is CampNet is an organization, and what we're doing is we've come up with this kit of parts, and essentially what we're trying to do is make glorified toolboxes. It's really a makerspace where people can go and get access to tools and technology and know-how. The whole essence of the design is that it itself is a toolbox that encompasses tools, and we can take this and drop it in anywhere and allow people to create. So the first one that we did was in the Agabolushi landfill, which is a metal scrapyard and e-waste computer place. So basically, what we allowed people to do is go in there and get the tools to not just recycle the waste, but to upcycle the waste. And that's one of the big projects that we've been doing. This was the installation of that, where we did a lot of metal work. I learned how to weld right down here in this wood shop. Yep. And so this was kind of the result of that one. And there's come and check out tools and have access to different stuff. We've also developed an app which allows them to, a lot of what they're doing in this scrapyard is buying and selling e-waste, which is very valuable. And we've developed an app that allows them in this informal sector to help do more. And so we're going to be building a lot of these in different environments. This is the one that we did in Senegal, West Africa. Every 2 years, they have the Art Biennale. And so we did one as far as a maker space for that art banale. Really what this was supposed to be a space for them to create a thing. So in this one, they have, and this is in the process, so it's not all outfitted, but we were making special racks for 3D printers, and they have a CNC machine, and they have a fab lab is what they have. And so they wanted to make that fab lab mobile, and so that's what this is. We were experimenting with the tensile wall at the back. And these are all the racks for the, ultimately the idea is for this whole thing to be a 3D printer, and for these racks up here to be the arm that the 3D printer can actually run on. That's the long-term vision for it. I just have some different concept designs that we did just to kind of show a bit more of my architecture and my vision for the kind of Afro-modern design style and different things I've done throughout the years. All of these designs, I've literally started with the house, and I've started as simple as possible. I've toned all my designs down to things that I can build and average people can build without cranes and specialized equipment. And for me, that's how I'm going to proceed. I can't build that high rise until I've built the house. And I'm going to keep on progressing with my architecture in that path. Yep, we're good. Thank you, thank you.
Brandon will be here this afternoon.
Yep.
So for time you guys can come up talking about different things, what he's been doing. Of course, he's looking for a larger team
Yeah.
to do further work, and he'll talk about that later. So, but thank you for the many questions. We know people of studio, FAMU way. I think Ron has a couple things because we know we want him wearing his FAMU gear when he leaves. So I think Ron has a few things for you.
Oh, thank you, thank
Your
you.
fellow band member.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The university gives us these bags at the beginning of each year practice planning. Hey, I said, what better person?
Yeah,
to pass it
thank
along
you,
to
thank
than
you.
A few things
because of the
inside.
other man rebellion
Yeah.
inside.
Oh, wonderful. It feels good to be home. Oh, yeah.
They're gonna give it to now.
Yeah.
I think this week is very much about alumni and alumni's connection to the school. There's not only Mr. Rogers today, but there's also another alum who's donating his time.
Yeah.
Who's Gerard Delaney's actually donated the $1,500 annual scholarship to an outstanding fourth-year student. He'll be here on Friday, and we'll celebrate that. So thank you for the faculty who invited their students to this time. Again, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Hi.
Brandon,
Yeah.
Good.
you want to join us review? You want to, when you're done, you want to come down to the grad studio? I love what you're doing.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I brought my book shirt already.
David has a traditional background. He finished here architecture. He got on special degrees. He's really working also with management. He's worked for.
So I have some of the, you know.
Very nice, very nice. How's it going? Pleasure. We got a lot of questions. That's why I'm here. Yeah, I'll give you this right here.
Not something that you'll get stuck to leave.
My goodness.
No, you
Ghana.
make it a reality.
I'm from Ghana.
Definitely make it a reality. So yeah, I'm here now, I'm here tomorrow, I'm probably gonna be here Friday. Another thing I've been working with Professor Chin on is one of my long-term goals is to help create a study abroad program so that you all can get over there and see some of the see, touch, feeling and have the hands-on experience. I know right now I think we go to Spain and you go to Chicago, but there's a whole new frontier over there, and for someone like you, if that's what you want to do, it would be perfect.
I just want to give you amazing.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
So I'm always a proponent.
All right, keep that. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, thank you. It's okay.
So we put
Perfect. We're
My
fine.
Ghanaian.
Oh, where are you from?
I'm from Accra.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So y'all my team now. Y'all my team. So y'all live here? Y'all are here, or y'all just here for school? So once you finish, you're going back, right? Or you trying to stay here and work?
That's totally, turn the camera off. Turn the camera off.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out the knowledge that you're developing here, are you trying to take it home?
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, that's the question. You know, it comes down to the fact that this we could see a way of running it in Nigeria. You know, I know a couple of construction firms, and I'm trying to see how I could pitch it over to them and link you up together and see how we can get the federal government of Nigeria in some of these states and into good things and see how we can implement that.
Nigeria is the biggest.
Nigeria is the biggest
I
place,
know,
definitely. So
I'm all over there, I'm all over there.
I'll talk to some people, I'll get it in the book, and if any one of them walks out, we will definitely get to
So, I mean, do y'all
I
go
need a
home?
business class. I'll be in Nigeria this December.
This
It's
December?
my first month
Actually,
here in class.
and I have something.
Oh, you just
I
came,
just-
you're the
I
new
just-
student. Oh, welcome.
Brandon's here today, he's here tomorrow, he'll probably be around Friday.
So let's set something up so that I know that I'm gonna see y'all.
I guess so.
What time
Nobody
tomorrow?
So I'll get
So
back
how
to
often do you
you.
get home?
Well, I haven't been home for 7 years.
But there's no email.
And I,
There's
well,
no
because of
email.
school,
Yeah.
but definitely after I graduate, yes.
Okay,
I live
there's an
in
email.
Philly.
There's an
Yeah,
email.
that's my email, phone numbers, WhatsApp, everything. Yeah, I have.
This is what I do in Nigeria though. Like we try and study here. So
Is this yours here?
this is Florida here. So like we try to do some like
You have the camera?
yeah this.
You have the
back
Matterport
home.
camera?
But we just got one here in
Oh,
school.
wow.
Yeah, so like.
That's what I'm talking about. You
Yeah.
making moves. I
Yeah,
know all
like-
about that camera. That's a great camera.
Yeah, I'll see.
So the school has one?
Yeah, we just got one like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been that way all along, because, you know, he brought me in COFA, you know what I mean? And so then, you know, and then architecture, everything, so.
No.
Yeah.
So I would, once I get across to
Yeah,
the person,
okay.
I would,
You've seen it before.
I will see how we can implement.
Just like your country, right? I mean, of course, yeah.
So that's what I'm heard here in Haiti, South
See, I know
America, like
most of
Brazil,
this
Cuba,
process
when I think when it comes to
in-game
rural areas and mine side,
So I'm
we're
trying to
looking
see
to
how we
just
can
build self-supported
But
These things shall go no matter
But-
rural area.
So my
But we
question
can
is, do you
see tomorrow.
guys
You see tomorrow. Talk.
choose,
Try
you
digest
know,
it.
style that was untouched?
Yeah, we can. We
Or
can.
is it just that night,
Tomorrow you
Ghana goes back, that's specific?
No. I mean, I choose sites. My goal is to go into those rural areas that are untouched virgin land and transform them into, you know, whatever vision we have. So that's why we chose kind of those mountainside sites. It's not as probably dense as maybe, you know, Haiti, and I'm speculating because I haven't been there, you know, but the same solutions would work, you know. And
Shit, I'll do
that's
that.
it. So how often do you get home?
I haven't been home since 2013.
What are you waiting for?
School.
Y'all get summer breaks, y'all get all this.
No.
This is one of the things that, like, you know, I'm from Orlando, Florida, so that's the best I can say my
I think
home.
it's easy for you to just explore Africa in the sense that I feel like you have access to a pool of funds. It's
Pool of
not
funds?
quite easy for an African.
You're failing to realize, a brief moment ago, I was you.
But
I
when
was
you were
you.
living in Florida, you had a couple of dollars when
I was
really
bright
couldn't-
futures,
good,
bright
but
futures.
You
I
had
had
that money,
scholarships.
that little bit of money that when you convert
No,
it back to the
like
Ghanaian
you asked,
currency,
like you were
do
saying
that.
earlier. The reason why I like to stay here for a while is one, the experience, and to gather little funds together. No matter how rich your parents is, they won't give you the whole fund they have, right? So you have to make things yourself and try to say, okay, I'm starting here and do
But the
things.
thing that I want you all to realize, because you all are from there, and I understand perfectly, I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to travel and experience, not just see, but live there and experience. But what you have to do is all this knowledge and resources that y'all are
Take it
learning,
back home.
you
Take
have
it
to
back.
take
For
it back
sure.
home
So that-
and apply it. And if you think, what happens is you think that, like you said, the money is better here, and when you compare, you're gonna graduate, and when you compare the money you will make here versus you're gonna be enticed to stay.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're gonna stay forever.
Sorry, to back that up,
Yeah.
let me tell you, in the next few years, 10, 20 years, I think there's going to be a rapid growth in most African countries.
Yeah. It's been happening in the last 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I see that thing like it's an opportunity for us, no matter how, coming here, they're like, when you think of what new idea can you bring to United States or something, it's gonna be hard to just see.
Yeah, just
a lot of things are
It's easier to bring it up
but
in
there are a lot
Africa.
of things in Africa that you can take back home and make money
Exactly,
and
and
make
that's
things.
really why, that's what I saw there and hooked me was the opportunity.
Yeah.
To me here, everything has been done.
Everything. You just sit and think and be like,
and it's
what
been
else?
done. My focus is rural because that's where there's an abundance of opportunity.
Mhm.
Once we leave our cities, when we're going to our towns, there's green land for
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Ghana,
Yes.
30 minutes outside of Accra, it's green, lush land. Any
Mhm.
seed you drop on the ground, it's gonna grow.
Yeah.
And that's how rich there's raw resources that if we go back with our innovative ideas and we organize, then we can do so much. And that's what's been happening over the last decade. So many people are coming home, even people are talking about it, the brain drain of all these people who are coming to the
Sure.
US for education, then
They
taking
don't
it home. But when I got over there and I saw the drivers are black, the police are black, the lawyers are black, everybody's black.
It was as if
That just blew my mind.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And what it really did to me, it took a weight off my shoulders.
Mhm.
And then when that weight was off my shoulders, I was like, ooh, I can do whatever I want. Whereas over here, even as I'm home, you should see me because of fear. You know what I mean? And all of that is gone over there.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for us to stay connected with where we come from and to do things there. And that has to be our priority.
This is an extra.
That has to be our priority. So everybody has to go home.
Absolutely.
If you don't know where your home is, all of us, we're connected there. So you need
Absolutely.
to experience it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And some of you all, now that y'all know, you need to go home with, oh, you're going home this summer? Let me travel with you.
And the last question
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Some of the members of Afro-CAC wanted to make sure that I wanted to let
Oh,
you all
perfect.
see some of the roots here in the organization and the transition, that for him is still going strong and well.
Yeah?
So he
Wonderful.
left us in good shape.
Wonderful.
I just thought that it was important that you.
All right, man.
Being architect, you did design like these extravagant things. You
I'll head down to Starbucks. I need to finish
and
up
that's
some
what
work.
made what you're doing interesting.
Big good, man.
Thank
So
you.
I thought it was big.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
really
you.
like parallel with what you think I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things, like, me, I'm so humble. So I didn't take any arrogance there. I'm not coming there saying I know the solution. I'm coming there and I'm experiencing, I'm observing, and then I'm trying to help develop solutions. And I'm there doing it with my own hands. Like, that's my other thing is,
That's a good-
I'm right there doing it, and that's where I'm fostering relationships with the individuals because of that. It's not because I'm there with a deep pocket, just like paying to get stuff. I got more sweat equity in there
Yeah, sure.
than that. And the ultimate goal is that we're gonna get great funding and great this and great that.
But
Even if
also,
you
you're
see,
making them like self-sufficient with
Exactly.
what you're doing too.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing
Exactly.
because we can help ourselves. We
Mhm.
don't have to go out
You know.
and get
Mhm.
people to help us.
and that's what we need. We need solutions that are above us, that are all of us, and can go beyond us. If I can only do, like right now, they can't work if I'm not there. If that's how it is, then that's a failed system.
Yeah.
I need something that they can continue when I'm gone, because I'm not gonna always be there, type of thing. And that's what I'm trying to do. And this, for me, this is my purpose in life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? The money, I'm fine now. It's gonna continue to come. You have to be very creative, so you've gotta have multiple avenues, and I do that. So, architecture is my passion, but I do have other businesses and other things that I do to help offset that.
Okay.
But if I were to say what my purpose in life is, this is it. And so now, because of that, I'm purpose-driven, I'm motivated, and a lot of that I didn't have before. When I was here, I was very, very, I was searching. Everybody will admit it, like, I was searching. I was very, very eccentric, you know what I mean? And that's what I needed. And I was doing what everybody told me to do, and I did
He
it
was
very well.
almost an outcast.
Yeah, that's how eccentric I was.
That's also because you were searching.
Yeah,
You
I was
were
searching.
looking for fulfillment.
He was
Yeah.
passionate about what he was doing.
Because I did everything everybody told me, and I still wasn't
So,
content. Yeah, I'm like, so I'm supposed to do this forever? Everything everybody tells you, and you still don't feel satisfied. And to me, like the way I was raised, I was afforded, and this was I'm privileged to be doing what I'm doing. Not everybody can do what I'm doing, but I accept that privilege. But the way I was raised, the most important thing for you to do is to find your purpose and to live your dream. So it's like all the other stuff is I'm doing it because society is telling me, and I would do it real well. I would get good grades, I would do this, but the fulfillment wasn't there. And when I finally found this aspect, Ghana, that aspect, it just all came together. And so now, I love it. I love my life. I love the work I'm doing,
Okay.
and I see where it's going, and I know exactly how long it's gonna take, and that's how much time I have, and that's a lifetime.